Look at the dailies this morning.
Okay, let's start with a story that looks more like an April Fool's joke, and that's the front page of the People Daily. And they talk about inside Joho's push for deputy presidents, yeah? And that's the only story on the front page. They're talking about, kwanza wamemweka hapo picha moja kubwa alafu State House behind him. And the story goes like, he's actually not just considering the number 2 slot, that is actually angling for the number 1 position, presidency eventually, after William Ruto exits. So probably, yes, anasema, I want to be deputy president, probably running mate to William Ruto, but according to analysts, that is not what he's looking at. He's looking at post-Ruto. His Excellency, the President, Ali Hassan Joho.
One and only.
You might think it's a joke and then it comes true. That's the front page of the People Daily. Alafu ameandika pale juu, Pwani wants power.
The audacity of hope.
Let's not rule him out.
No one is ruling him out, actually. Well, we might have him as president.
I can tell you for sure, like 20 years ago, let's say in 2007, very few people might have imagined William Ruto as president. Very few, yeah? So, but now he is president. Now he's probably the biggest political mind that we have currently. So, yeah, all dreams are valid.
Yes.
All dreams are valid. Even on April 1st, all dreams are still valid. The only other stories highlighted on the front page of this paper: next battlefield, Kindiki Gachagua to face off in Olkalau seat mini poll. And this is a bit disturbing because, you know, the MP for Olkalau passed on just the other day. So I don't even think that Parliament has even declared a vacancy. The Speaker is yet to issue the wreaths, but people are already anticipating the by-election. People are already talking about who's the potential candidates. I think it's a bit too soon.
Bere too. Bere season 2.
Yeah, but why so fast? This is a human being. This is a father, a husband, a family man. The people of Olkalau probably are in mourning. Let's allow them to rest their MP first. Then we can talk about what happens next. Because either way, it will happen. Yeah, and by election has to happen at least 90 days. Within 90 days after the Speaker of the National Assembly issues wreaths declaring a vacancy. So it'll happen. Hakuna haja haraka haraka. Wacheni, bado kuna mazishi itakuja. Tutulie kidogo. County Watch: why is Taita Taveta broke despite sitting on ruby deposits? That's a story on page 13 of the People Daily. Yakini pale mbele ni inside Joho's push for deputy presidency, or is it presidency? It's the front page of the People Daily.
All right, still on that story, on Olkalau, mbunge akataa kuzikwa kwao, and that's the main story in the front page of Taifa Leo this morning. Anasema wakazi wa Olkalau wamepigwa na butwaa kufuatia uamuzi wa mbunge wao marehemu David Njuguna Kiaraho kutaka azikwe nje ya eneo bunge hilo. Kwa wengi, uamuzi huo wa mwisho unaangazia urithi tata wa mwanasiasa aliyekuwa wa mienendo isiyotabirika akiwa hai, na sasa ni utata hata baada ya kifo chake. Habari kamili iko katika ukurasa wa 2. Wakazi wakosoa hatua yake kuamua kuzikwa alikozaliwa badala ya eneo alilowakilisha. Oh wow. Lakini kama anaenda kuzikwa somewhere else where he prefers, perhaps maybe he was born there, or it holds some sentimental value to him.
You know, the debate has always been that if you want to represent this constituency, then you better be from here. That your home should be here. Why do you want to represent this constituency yet you're not from here? That's a debate. I don't know if it holds any water. What do you think? Should your MP be from your own constituency? Should they have a home there? Should they be buried in the same constituency?
And now, while you're talking about that, I'm thinking of Junet Mohammed. No offense to Junet, but is he from that constituency?
Yes, he's from Suna East. He's grown there. He has businesses there. He was mayor of Migori town at some point. So that's someone who has grown there. I can consider that place his home. Same to people like Shakil Shabir in Kisumu. Those one, he grew up in Kisumu. That's why he represents a constituency from there. So, but when you hear something like this, because now the burial will be held in a different county, different constituency.
Yeah.
What happens to his voters who voted for him? Does it mean they won't even be able to attend that funeral?
That's the main story on the front page of Taifa Leo this morning. It has been covered on page 2. Vidokezi zaidi, sasa ni haramu kula kwa kijiko. Bunge la kaunti ya Mombasa limepitisha sheria inayopiga marufuku matumizi ya vijiko, uma na visu. Wow. No cutleries in Mombasa.
Well,
this one...
Tulisema tuuze magazeti kwanza.
Yes. Sasa ni haramu kula kwa watu kwa kijiko. Magavana wakaa ngumu, wasema lawama walizowasilisha dhidi ya maseneta bado hazijashughulikiwa. Habari katika ukurasa wa 5. Na Iran yavamia meli licha ya onyo la Trump. Habari inasema kwamba Iran jana ilishambulia na kuteketeza meli yenye mafuta ghafi licha ya Trump kuiona. Na kule juu on the top strip, Wakenya milioni 12 bado hawajasajili. Kufikia Machi tarehe 26 ni Wakenya milioni 23 pekee walikuwa wamejisajili kupiga kura. Na vile vile Kenya yalipa shilingi bilioni 3.9 kwa CAF za dimba la AFCON mwaka ujao. Mashabiki wa kandanda nchini hatimaye waweza kupumua. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
I saw one of the senators, I think it's Senator Ledama Olekina, complaining about that payment to CAF, that 3.9 billion shilling payment. And he says that probably, yes, it may have been contained in the supplementary budget. But I say, something like that should have been planned way ahead. Like when they were making the budget for 2025-2026, they should have factored in that 4 billion shilling. Because we were anticipating to host these tournaments. How come it's coming late into the year and probably it looks like something unplanned? That's according to Senator Ledama Olekina. I'm just quoting him on his tweet. You can check out his tweets. All right, let's move on to the next paper. And this is the Daily Nation this morning. It has the image of the DCI boss, Mohammed Amin. Sema tenure ends for DCI boss haunted by abductions. Change of guard, they ask. A 2-year contract for the Directorate of Criminal Investigations Director Mohammed Amin ends today. Yes. Mr. Amin secured, lakini unawezaje kuwa na contract ina end April Fools? Mimi naweza sema hiyo ni uongo yangu jaisha. Amin apparently had secured a contract extension in 2024 after attaining the mandatory retirement age of 60 years. So he's over 60. I didn't know that. It was not immediately clear whether he will stay on or his successor will be appointed. This story is on page 6. Ideally, if you hit 60, you're supposed to retire, but due to the nature of his job, I think he got an extension for 2 years. Now you're 2 years in Aisha leo. Yeah. Do you think President William Ruto would be keen to let him go at this time? A year to elections, and you let go of your DCI boss. It's tricky, but we have to see. Rules are rules. Should we follow them? Yeah. So they talk about some of the cases he has presided over, especially, there were a lot of accusations, especially around the Gen Z protests, and the DCI was accused of being behind most of the abductions under his tenure. And apparently there's now jostling and intense lobbying for the post. It's currently underway. Watu wengi wanataka hiyo kazi. Watu hawana kazi na wanataka hii kazi inakuja na power. Hey, wacha tu. Away from that, the other story is about what's happening with the governor of Nairobi. Governor Johnson Sakaja yesterday turned up at the Senate after evading police arrest on Monday for snubbing summons to appear before the County Public Accounts Committee to respond to audit queries. Alijipeleka Senate ye mwenyewe because maaskari walikuwa shaingia City Hall wakimtafuta. And we'll be having 2 senators on my panel today on State of the Nation. We'll be discussing this among other issues. And many people, because there's a picture there on the front page of the Daily Nation when police had gone to City Hall to look for Governor Sakaja to arrest him. Remember, the Council of Governors had said they're going to snub all summons by the Senate because waliname watu wanne wakasema 4 people in that Public Accounts Committee are extorting them. So na wakapeana majina na wakasema sasa sisi hata tukiitwa hatukuji. Apparently on Monday this week there were 29 governors who had been summoned by the same committee. Yeah. So the questions are, even if the 29 would have showed up, do you think the committee would have been able to handle them? 29 governors all in one day? Yeah. So many questions. Also the silence from the Speaker of the Senate on the fact that some of his senators have been accused of extortion, which is a very serious allegation. He's remained silent instead of taking action. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. YTSC is doing an audit of teachers. That's another story on page 10. Kule ndani anatafuta story ya April Fools na sioni. Tensions rise as state clears Gikomba. That's a big story. Row of missing infant bodies, big story. Safaricom sale, extortion claims. All these are big stories. I love Kalonzo curses Ruto allies in his political backyard. He cursed them. Your story nyingine mrefu sana. All right, so that's the Daily Nation today. On the back page of the Daily Nation, Benny's boys, that's Harambee Stars, minutes and marches. Since his appointment as Stars coach, Benny McCarthy has so far called 66 players, used 62, and as clear favourites who always get the nod. Out of the 17 matches the South African coach has handled, Ogam was one of the players. Ryan Ogam is a striker, has made the most appearances at 13. So just an analysis of how Coach Benny McCarthy has been handling the national soccer team, Harambee Stars, on the entire back page. That's the Daily Nation today. All
right, let's take a look at the Standard this morning. Folks back to charcoal. Broken promise, they call it. 2 years after the government promised cheaper cooking gas, the country's strategy is facing a stark reversal. A failed Saudi-backed deal has stalled plans to expand supply, while only levies have sharply raised costs. Now, the broken pledge risks pushing struggling households back to charcoal and firewood, eroding clean energy gains and exposing families to higher health and environmental risks as the cost of living continues to climb. And this is the only story on the front page of the Standard. It has been covered extensively on page 4. 2.5 billion shillings is the value of an agreement the government failed to secure with Saudi Aramco, derailing plans to expand LPG supply, distribute 8.4 million cylinders and stabilize prices. 5 shillings and 40 cents, the new petroleum development levy, which is an increase from 40 cents per kilo. And the growing concerns that Consumers Federation of Kenya and others say the tax hike contradicts clean energy policy, lacks public participation, and reflects a reliance on opaque petroleum taxation. And 2028 is the year the country is expected to achieve universal clean cooking. And recent developments undermine this target that is backed by President William Ruto. 2028 is just 1 year away. Where there's a broken pledge, as the Standard puts it, they say that 2023 is the year when the Kenya Kwanza administration promised to lower LPG prices. So the question still remains, are we going back to charcoal and firewood? Lakini watu nyumbani wanatumia charcoal bado, and of course firewood.
Charcoal still remains one of the most expensive forms of energy for household cooking. The cost of a bag of charcoal is a few thousand bob. Very expensive.
Yeah, that is for sana for people living in urban areas, because rural areas.
Compared to a 13-kilogram gas cylinder. Anyway.
All right, on the inside pages of the Standard, left in retirement limbo, 3,224 teachers yet to get their pensions. They say retired teachers are being asked to provide their first payslip to allow for the processing of their pension funds, and beneficiaries of deceased teachers are being asked to part with money before accessing the benefactors' pensions. That's the side story there on page 2. Family appeals for help after relative killed by vehicle in CS Duale's convoy. That's also on page 2. Netflix, Snap, and Showmax exit town players in Kenya's film industry. That's another story on page 3. Cheap cooking gas plans stalls on higher taxes as Saudi deal flops. A story we've mentioned, it's on page 4. You can grab a copy and take a look at it. COG rubbish is arrested as Sakaja resurfaces. That's another story on page 5 of this newspaper. Gikomba traders left stranded as demolition start. This is another big story. They say market officials defend the operation, insisting it was necessary to reclaim riparian land. And traders said they had not expected the demolitions to happen at night. It cannot happen during the day. Of course, jam and how it will, the fracas that it will cause. Can you imagine if they would do these demolitions during the day in Gikomba, the traffic jam that it caused in that area?
The argument by the traders mostly is that at least if it happened during the day, because they admit, yes, a notice had been issued.
Yes.
If it happened during the day, most of them would have been able to salvage their wares. But when it happens at night, unaamkia asubuhi
Now
ndio unapata duka ilivunjwa.
the thing is there's a notice, that one we agree.
Yes.
But there's no demolition that has ever been done during the day, not that I can think of. Usually all of them are done
And
during
you
the
think
night.
it's right they do
Yes,
it at night?
yes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if it's done during the day, it will disrupt a lot of activities. Especially using this one on Thika Road as an example, the one that was here around Roysambu and Githurai and all. This is a highway. You can imagine if these demolitions were being done during the day. This is a road that has a lot of traffic, first of all. By 6:30 najua kutakuwa kumechacha hapo. Imagine now demolitions being done there during the day on a super highway. I think it's just right. The night time is right, but anyway, pole sana. On the back page, there's no turning back, just smile. AFCON is coming. They say Kenya clears that's 3.9 billion shillings AFCON 2027 hosting fee, restructures lock, and none of the proposed stadia in the host nations currently meet AFCON standards.
Wow.
That's the standard.
All right. Speaking of Gikomba, because that's what we were talking about, if you look on the front page of the Star newspaper, which is the paper we're moving to now, then there's an artist's impression of what Gikomba should look like.
Singapore.
Hii ni kama tumeenda sijui wapi. Because if you look at that, if Gikomba was to ever look like that, now there's the artist's impression of what Gikomba is to look at, inaitwa architectural image of Gikomba market plan. Alafu on the other side, kuna the demolished section of Gikomba market and how chaotic it is. The river doesn't look that nice, but bado kuna ile ingine. You know, it's still part of that Nairobi River Regeneration Plan, trying to reclaim the riparian lands throughout the movement of that river. But do you agree that it can look this good, future and present? Where Ruto unveils grand dream for Gikomba market. So you are talking about demolitions, but there's a grand plan.
Yes.
You should see how it looks there on the front page of the Star. Very nice. But that's not even the big story. The big story is about subsidized fertilizer. And farmers are speaking of big savings and high income. That story is on page 4 and 5. And basically this story is just talking about how things have doubled or gone up in all sectors of agriculture, agrarian. Because if you look at, they've broken down things like even coconut production, yes, wanasema imepanda. Miraa exports grew, almost doubled, actually more than doubled. Sugarcane production went up by over 100,000 acres. Coconut production rose by over 2,000 acres. Paddy, which is rice, rose by over 100,000 tons. Acreage for cotton went up double. Farmers registered, it's like 10 times. Yeah, fertilizers disbursed from 1.4 million in 2022 to 21.3 million bags in 2024. Basically, this story is just singing the praises of the subsidized fertilizer, where they say millions previously struggled to buy input but now have cash to spare. Hii story serikali lazima inafurahia sana wakiona. The other stories on the front page, Kenyan tea set to fetch premium returns in new France-linked market push. And child sexual abuse survivor speaks on pain of violence by dad being infected with HIV. Lakini sasa acha nikwambie kuna story mzuri sana hapa page 2. Pale chini. Na nilisema wacha gazeti ziuzwe kwanza. Alafu tutakuja tuangalie kama the veracity of such stories. Mohozi Kairenugaba says amesema ametuma 20,000 Ugandan troops to Israel to back up the war in Iran. That's on page 2 of the Star. Mimi sisemi kitu. That's page 2.
Business Daily this morning. Price shock looms on petrol imported outside G2G deal. They say 2 local oil firms imported expensive petrol outside the G2G supply contract between Kenya and 3 Gulf oil majors, setting consumers up for a potential steep climb in pump prices from April 15. Industry sources reveal that One Petroleum and Oryx were in early March cleared by the Ministry of Energy to import 60 tons of petrol each, as the government scrambled to avert shortages tied to the US-Israel war with Iran. The story is on page 2, and that's the Business Daily. Tuvuke boda.
Tuvuke boda, tuanze Uganda. Tuna gazeti moja, General's Amnesty, the Daily Monitor in Uganda. So the Chief of Defence Forces, Muhoozi Kairenugaba, has ordered the release of Brigadier General Johnson Namanya, who's a former Commissioner for Citizenship and Passport Control, 4 days after his arrest in unclear circumstances. Major General Don Nabasa, who was arrested at the same time, remains in custody. we kule kuna chacha. And I think that's the only story we have from Uganda. Wale wengine New Vision hawajaamka bado. Twende Tanzania. Tuanze na gazeti la Mwananchi. Sababu za hasara kujirudia za tajwa. Ni baada ya ripoti ya CAG, huyo ni controller, Auditor General. Wachambuzi wa siasa na uchumi waanika mzizi wa tatizo siasa, uwajibikaji vikichua nafasi, watoa mapendekezo yanayoweza kupunguza au kumaliza tatizo. Ndio habari kuu pale. Kuna yule jamaa ambaye aliaga dunia last week, anaitwa Lukuvi, alizikwa hapo jana. Gazeti nyingine kutoka Tanzania ni The Citizen. Bank of Tanzania pauses gold sale as prices fall. Where the Bank of Tanzania suspended its planned sale of reserve gold following a dip in global prices. Yani pesa ya gold inaweza shuka. That's a serious one.
April 4th.
Signaling a cautious shift in strategy as market conditions turn volatile. Could it be April's Fools? Anyway, that's a story in Tanzania focusing on gold and other minerals. Hey, Tanzania wanakuanga na bahati. Sisi Kenya ni kama tunanga vitu kama hivi. Right, so those are the dailies, both local and regional. Let's take a look at the cartoons now, and we start off with the cartoon.